Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, and before we get started with today's video, remember to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and without further ado, let's get on with the video. Today's video is going to be discussing all things horror. Horror movies, horror books, horror. And these are all my opinions, my thoughts, my likes, my dislikes, and so let's just get started. Subgenres. I enjoy all the major subgenres, but slasher is definitely my least favorite, and that goes into my next thing I'm going to talk about. But first of all, my favorite subgenre is probably, that's a tough question, because I really do like cosmic and monster and paranormal, so that one's actually really tough. I really just like a variety of subgenres, but also back to what we were talking about with slashers, I do not like gore and blood and all that kind of stuff for the sake of it just being there for like dramatic effect or for gross factor. I'm okay when it like adds to the story or it's not too much, but when it's just like blood and guts everywhere for no reason, it's not my personal preference. Not saying I won't watch a movie or read a book that has it in it. It's just, to me, it feels unnecessary and it doesn't draw me in like it does some people. Next is my favorite book and movie, and those actually happen to be the same thing. It's Odd Thomas, which leads into the next question, which is, who's my favorite horror author? The answer is Dean Koontz, the author of Odd Thomas. I adore his writing. I've read 4 of his books, and I have several more on my TBR shelf, and he is my favorite horror author. I love Odd Thomas so much, so I just can't say enough good things about the book and the movie. If I did have to pick, though, I do like the movie more. I definitely recommend reading the book as well, but if you're only gonna read or watch one of them, watch the movie. Who is my favorite couple from horror? And that would be Odd and Stormy from Odd Thomas. I love them. They are absolute soulmates, and they were just perfect together. Definitely go read the book and watch the movie. I cannot say enough good things, so I think we're going to move away from Odd Thomas and into some other questions with some different answers. Do I prefer horror movies or horror books? Horror movies for sure. I do love a good horror book, but I just love horror movies. I love so many different ones. I can name a bunch of horror movies I've seen and loved, whereas books, I actually haven't dipped my toe into that genre of reading very much. I like to do that more, and I have a couple on my TBR, but overall, definitely horror movies. You may be wondering, do I scare easily? What's the scariest movie I've ever seen? What's the scariest scene I've ever seen? The answer to those is, I don't think I scare super easily with what I've seen. I don't have any movie that I've seen that's like, oh my God, it's so scary. And there's no scene that's like, it's terrifying. But the scariest movie I have seen is Megan. And this one I actually saw in theaters. I had no idea. Well, I knew what the movie was about, but I had no warning for what was going to happen in it. And I really did like this movie. It was pretty good. It's definitely the scariest movie I've ever seen, but it's still not scary in my opinion. And the scariest scene I've ever seen is the chimp scene in Nope, which again, I saw in theaters. I knew nothing about that movie going into it. It was pretty good. That scene though, that was weird and scary, but not super scary. Again, I wasn't terrified. I wasn't like, oh my God, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen. But it definitely was something else. I was not expecting that. Now is my favorite horror TV show. I have not really watched many horror TV shows, but I am obsessed with The Walking Dead. So that would have to be my favorite horror TV show. And I even have an edit on my channel of the first 8 seasons. So definitely go check that out. It'll be in my edits playlist. I have a whole playlist where I have edits that I've created for various shows and show couples. So definitely go check that playlist out and go check that video out. Ambiguous endings. What are my thoughts? Do I like them? The answer is yes, I do. I never thought I would ever say that. I used to hate when movies didn't have a solid set in stone ending and it was up to my imagination. But I love that now. I absolutely love when you finish a movie and you have no clue what you watched. You don't know what was going on, what caused this, what caused that, and yet you loved every minute of it. I love that. Of course, I don't want all my horror movies to be and books to be ambiguous endings, but I do enjoy them when they arise. Stephen King. I have seen 3 of his film adaptations. I have not read any of his books because I've tried. I've DNF'd them. I tried Firestarter and DNF'd it. And I just know his writing style isn't for me. I just don't vibe with it. I hear he goes off on tangents a lot, and even I experienced that while reading Firestarter, which is one of his shorter books. And so I wasn't a huge fan of his writing, but his ideas, his stories are just brilliant. And I have seen The Shining, It Chapter 1, and The Mist, and I really can't wait to watch more of his adaptations. My ranking of my Stephen King adaptations I've seen would be number 1, The Shining, number 2, The Mist, number 3, It Chapter 1, but I adored all 3 of these movies. They were all top tier, and I loved them so much. So that is my thoughts on King. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is Werewolf by Night. If you don't know, this was a short movie thing on Disney Plus. So if you have Disney Plus, go check it out. And it was originally released in black and white, but then a color version was released. I have seen both. I like the color version, but I think there's just something about the black and white version that just makes it so much more eerie and creepy and spooky and gives more of the vibes. I'm going to say I prefer the black and white, but both are very good. And that is going to be it for this video. If you have more questions for me about any genre you'd like me to talk about, would you like a part 2 to this? Would you like a different genre, the same style like this? Let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far, please leave me a spooky emoji, like maybe a zombie or a ghost or whatever screams spooky to you. And before you go, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.